Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Samuel Prieto, and I work in the 3D Visual Computing and Robotics Lab in the University of Castilla-La Mancha, Spain. And today I'm going to talk to you about our latest work. So our group right now is focusing on the development of our automatic TBIM models. TBIM models stands for Build Information Model, which we could say is a file with all the information needed to define a building. And usually RGB color information with point clouds, like the one in the picture, provide enough information to describe this kind of file. But if we want to provide thermal and energy efficiency information, we need to include thermal information to the point cloud. And that's what we aim to provide with this work. So the system we are proposing is a hybrid 3D laser scanner able to obtain 3D point clouds with RGB color information and thermal data. It's composed of 3 individual elements. The responsible for obtaining the thermal data is the thermal camera from the field company, specifically the field I65 model. A digital camera, an icon D90, takes RGB images of the environment, of the scenario, and we will be able to obtain the color image with that camera. Finally, but most importantly, our 3D scanner takes the point cloud with this reflectance information. So since we're dealing with a system composed by 3 individual elements, we need to calibrate all the 3 elements between them. We need to perform 2 different types of calibration. We're talking about an intrinsic calibration and extrinsic calibration. The first one of them is going to deal with a disturbance called vignetting effect. We will talk about this later. And also the deformation produced by the lens deformation. The second calibration, the extrinsic calibration, is basically going to tackle the relationship between the 2D coordinates of the thermal image and the 3D coordinates of the point cloud. So what is this vignetting effect we were talking about? So basically, because of the way the thermal camera is internally designed, the light rays that reach the outer regions of the microvolumeter sensor inside the camera are going to receive less energy. So that means that as we move farther from the center of the image, the data is less likely to be accurate, producing these darker images. But this disturbance can be modeled with a pattern similar to the effect it produces. So with this pattern, we can mitigate the effect. For example, here we can see an image with the vignetting effect in the left one, and with the correction applied in the right one, you can see how the corners are especially susceptible to this effect. And also we can appreciate the effect in the 3D representation. You can see how because the 3D point cloud is composed of consecutive thermal images. The one on the left with the vignetting effect presents a gap of 3 degrees, but we can slightly mitigate it with the correction applied. It's really hard to completely remove this effect, but we can mitigate it enough to the information to be valid. So the other intrinsic calibration we're going to make corresponds to the deformation that the lens produces. This can be a Picassian deformation or a barrel deformation. And we're going to do this with a calibration panel composed of 20 LIDs. We're going to use LIDs because we need these targets to be visible in the thermal image. And due to the internal warming up of the LID, we can easily see them in the thermal image. After that, we're going to take multiple images from different points of view of the panel. And with that, we can process, knowing the set coordinates of the LID centers. Sorry, we can process the information and eliminate this deformation. So now with the extrinsic calibration, what we are trying to do basically is express the coordinates of one point in one reference system into another reference system. In our case, one of these reference systems is going to be 2D, that is the thermal image. And what we need to do is to compute the intrinsic matrix. To do that, we're going to need the very same coordinates of the same points, both in the thermal image and the 3D point cloud. So for that reason, we're going to need again another target visible from the thermal image and the 3D point cloud. So right now, before we use heat, we are going to use cold, because hot targets will require custom energy supply and cables. And since we have to redistribute these targets through the whole scenario, through the whole visible scenario in the image, it will be quite difficult and tedious to deal with all the cables of the targets. So that's why we use ice cubes as targets, which are easily visible in the thermal image. And to identify them on the 3D point cloud, we're going to use the reflectance property. So that's why we're going to stick some reflective disk on this target. So once we have distributed the targets through the scenario, the scanner is going to digitize a region of the environment wide enough to be able to see all the targets in the image. And then the system is going to take a thermal image to also see these targets in the thermal image. So we end up with these two images. The one on the left corresponds to the 3D reflectance image obtained from the 3D point cloud. It's expressed in polar coordinates, so that's why we are able to see it as a panoramic. And the image in the right is the 2D thermal image. We can see how in both images the targets are easily visible. So once we have computed the coordinates in both images, in both systems, we are able to pair them and to obtain the relationship between them and compute the intrinsic matrix. So with this matrix, now we are going to we are able to move the information of the thermal image to the 3-point cloud, but we are able to use we need to do it to all the thermal images because of in the data acquisition process we take multiple images as the scanner rotates 360 degrees. We need to apply this transformation to all the thermal images that were taken. As we can see, because of the small field of view of the thermal image, we are only able to provide thermal information for a narrow band of the point cloud. So that's why we might need to do several scans in the same position until we completely digitize the whole environment. So the system was tested in the Education Research Institute in the city of Cuenca in Spain, with a dimension of 45 by 28 meters. It was needed 87 scans in 27 positions. Like I said, we need multiple scans in the same position to completely digitize the building. This is the result we obtained, the thermal point cloud. You can see how the heat bands are easily visible in the thermal point cloud. Also, there is some slight difference in the construction elements. You can also observe how the sun was heating up some of the lab equipment on the windows. So as conclusion, we can say that we are going to be able to provide a complete 3D thermal point cloud of the building. This is only the data acquisition stage. We will need to process this information and to smooth it, because as we can see, there is some gaps between thermal changes between the different images. So our future work will be to expand the field of view of the thermal camera, so we don't need to take that many scans as we need now. That will be all. Thank you for everything.